you're expected to juggle beauty standards, rape threats, political correctness, and being likable, and all of those things, and be told you're not funny.
From the time we are born, girls have to follow rules. To be seen, not to be heard. Be feminine, but not be girly. Be sexy, not be slutty. All kinds of rules. Women have to walk a tightrope about who they are, how they should be, and how the world perceives them. In the corporate sphere, women who are considered ambitious are not considered likable. And if you are too likable, you could potentially also be incompetent. There is disproportionate pressure for women to be likable, to be heard, to be respected, and at the same time, if they do raise their voice or go against the grain, that likability is gone out of the window and they're considered far too nasty for people's tastes. In this episode, we unpack who the likable woman is. Do the same behaviors and traits that make men likable make women unlikable? And just how does the definition of the likable woman change when all of this comes at play? Caste, religious identity, class, culture, background, economic backgrounds, all of that. Let's take a look. My guests today on the show, all of them bring out the various elements of the difficulty of being good. I'm going to go first to Mallika Dua, woman who most people detest for speaking her mind and saying it like it is in the world of comedy and stand-up. Mallika Dua, welcome to Sisterhood.
Thank you. It's good to be here, always.
They say that difficult women should not really be getting together on a show, but I can see the two of us here. How often do you get chucked that tag?
Oh, every day, every hour probably. I swear to God, like every time I'm in a professional setup, you just have to express yourself and you are difficult. So now it's like initially, when I just joined this industry and I was like a kid or whatever, I used to be very affected by people saying difficult. And as you go along, you realize, oh, okay, this is terminology जिसका उल्टा मतलब difficult का मतलब ये होता है. And जैसे urban dictionary होती है ना, that it's not the actual meaning. So now I've learned to accept it and learn to understand that you will be called difficult if you put your point across. There is just no escaping it. You just have to keep being fabulous in their face.
How affected did you get when it happened, Shuru?
I was very affected. I was very, very affected. I used to cry and I used to just be very anxious. I think I've never known anxiety before I moved to this industry. I was diagnosed with depression earlier, which anyone can be, but my anxiety specifically was triggered by this, the way the industry functions and the demands and mostly the slander that you are exposed to.
What kind of slander?
यही कि मतलब ये difficult है, हमने इसके बारे में सुना है, good luck working with her, she will give you a hard time.
There's one thing that somebody says and then there's the fact that here you are, right? You've got your own way, you've got your career on its, absolute summit. You've also pushed yourself boundaries and on your terms.
See, I won't say that I am always proud of every decision that I make or that my team doesn't tell me ki ye mat karo, wo mat karo. But at the end of the day, I'll tell you, there'll be too many attempts, especially when you are in a business where you are camera facing. There will be too many attempts to make you a very neutral, soulless version of yourself that doesn't offend anybody, that pleases everybody, that
Mom ki
gudiya, yaar. I think I got to this industry at a certain age where I had already developed a personality. Maybe if this industry shaped my personality, I'd be different. But I had a very strong one by the time I came. So then I can't be anybody else.
Now I think you traverse many industries, but whether it's comedy, आजकल influencer नाम से जो industry जानी जाती है. How hard was it to kind of embrace that here it is, they're going to treat men differently and women completely different?
So मैं सच बताऊं तो ऐसा कोई conclusion मतलब मैं भी आई नहीं उस पे entirely, because knowing that would mean accepting that this is extremely unjust and that's how it is. I still actively fight it. The fact is, I didn't know it was happening at every single level. I didn't know it was happening in comedy when I came. I didn't know it's happening in channels run by women, like GEC networks. 3 women were running a show where I was paid less than my co-judge or whatever. You find out these things as you experience them and then you talk about them, but at no point do you ever accept it. ये है, that's okay. Yeah, you can acknowledge that this is what is happening and it does happen. But I've never reached a point where I'll be like, अब यही है, I will be okay with crumbs. No.
So Malika, would you say some of that comes from the fact that, like some others, you may not have had to initially, I wouldn't say not struggle, I think struggle सबकी होती है, because at least you had a settled family. Do you think उससे बहुत फर्क पड़ता है?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, if today I consider myself empowered, it's because my parents empowered me, at a very young age. If today I know my rights, it's because I got to study in a very privileged environment. You don't exist as an empowered person in isolation, right? It's your experiences, the privilege that you are born into, like your biggest caregivers, if they tell you to like speak up and question and whatever. So I've never kind of said ki, oh, look at me, I'm so, feisty and मैं हक के लिए लड़ती हूँ, because मुझे और कुछ आता ही नहीं है.
How often are you concerned, consciously, subconsciously, consciously, whether or not what you say will be liked or disliked by your followers? कितनी बार सोचते हो?
So वैसे तो मैं सोचती नहीं हूँ by default. मेरी problem ये है कि मैं कुछ भी बोल देती हूँ. I don't care if someone says कि oh, you are so this, you are so that. That I don't care about. I mean, you shouldn't be here if you don't like me the way I am. But what I do care about is that people turn to people like us for joy, for relief, for cheering up. And I know that we are not 24/7 clowns or comedians, but at the same time, our online presence is for that purpose. So sometimes, जैसे जब CAA का protest चल रहा था, तो all our feeds were very, very political. So in that situation, I understand. But then I realized after that, I was like, save your outrage for certain things and try to give your audience what they've come to you for as often as you can. And if you cannot, if your state of mind is not conducive to putting out happy content at that point, then don't put anything out.
Do you feel uneasy being political?
Absolutely. I have a father sitting downstairs with a sedition case on him for being a journalist. I feel very, very scared.
Because of your dad that you're scared, or do you think like, this is the new world? Like Joshua Agrima ke saath jo hua, for example.
It's not two separate things. What's happening with my father is a result of the same people as what is happening with Agrima. For them, a journalist is as much a threat to the nation as a comedian. So मतलब ऐसे में आप डरोगे नहीं तो क्या करोगे, I'm not able to express my political angst in the form of comedy, like say a Kunal can so beautifully, or a Varun Grover can so beautifully. I don't have that. If I did, maybe I would use that. Which is why I tell myself कि अगर आप joke की तरह नहीं rage express कर पा रहे, तो देख लो मतलब कैसे करना है.
Do you think that it's harder for women to take on comedy roles, which are also sometimes, laced with realities of our life, whether it's politics or otherwise, and then have like this in-your-face thing? Oh God, I have brands, right? I have business and I have a career that I want to make out of this.
What I've noticed is that the demands that brands make of men are different from what they make of women, because they expect girls to be specifically likable. Matlab, they will not evaluate you basis your work alone, right?
Now, boycott culture is really something that's got two aspects of it. I would imagine it's a double-edged sword. One, that it shouldn't happen to anybody for any reason, but also maybe this is the time the system gets cleaned up. I don't know, I'm asking you, is that something that could work?
I'll tell you, the disadvantage of being popular is that you don't get to evolve in private like most other people do. And taking an evolving human being and saying, oh, you deserve to be cancelled, maine kaha, tum kya ho? Like, who are you to decide that I deserve to be cancelled, And yeah, you have to hold celebrities to a higher standard, but at the same time, holding them to a higher standard doesn't mean like lowering their standard as human beings, does it? And cancel culture is very easy to say ki, acha, we are this network, we don't want to associate with this person, we are this OTT platform, we don't want to do this. And everyone sees through it, because tomorrow if the same cancelled person rises from the ashes, you will all go running after them.
How have you dealt with trolls, and even more male trolls? Because I feel trolling is very gendered all over the world.
So trolls come in all genders. In all genders they come. I think as I've grown up a little, I've learned to just block them straight up. But if I feel that मैं तो तुझे सुना के रहूंगी, then I tell them.
How do you do this? Do you regulate what you say?
I think when you're doing something as vile as say what a Shubham Mishra does, or what some of these other accounts that just make money off of talking nonsense and abusing and harassing people, yeah, there you have to involve the law. बाकी चीजों के लिए कॉल आउट कल्चर है, बाकी चीजों के लिए कैंसल कल्चर का डर है, एंड सबसे इफेक्टिव चीज है आपकी कॉन्शियंस जो मतलब which you have to kind of rely on.
It's been fabulous chatting with you.
Yeah, I also look forward to chatting with you.
She's 21, an artist and illustrator whose art speaks her mind. Priyanka Paul, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Shelly.
Priyanka, first off, your view on the idea of likability and why we all are expected to force fit ourselves into expectations that others have for us.
Whole world, social media, everything revolves around likability, relatability. On the internet, social currency is liking. Literally, it's called likes. I think as queer people, let me just say for us, when we talk about likability and acceptance, it's two different things, because literally us trying to be ourselves will get us killed. Time and again that has been seen. So literally the point is, let me be myself. Just don't kill us, because people are killed for being different. And then again, the politics of likability is then a completely whole topic that is changed, because your survival literally depends on it.
For the queer community, is this much harder because they have to fit into perhaps somebody else's idea of what should be liked and what shouldn't be, and what society expects from them and what it doesn't?
There's this idea of what's normal, and when you look at queer people, you automatically think that they're not normal, and then the question arises, who defines what normal is?
Yeah.
Because what's normal to me might not be normal to you, but there is this entirely universal perceived idea of normalcy, which I think is just detrimental to human expression and human evolution. And I think likability again then fits into how well do you fit into these criteria, how well do you perform in a system that values uniformity and just like one way of being, or just like a homogeneous idea of existence, which is not true, because humanity, like the essence of humanity is that we're all different.
How do you take all of these issues up with family? Because somewhere all of this begins there, right? The expectation, girls should be quiet, girls should smile, be seen, not heard.
Definitely. I mean, obviously, in just the family structure that we have in Indian families, and especially being a young woman, you're constantly told that, you have to fit into a certain standard. Like, I once came home with my hair just dyed, and my grandfather was at home. And he looked at me, then looks at my father and says, who will marry her? What makes you think I want to get married? So that was just hilarious to me, how me coloring my hair and this man's direct reaction was how another man and his family was going to react to my hair. So obviously you will come across these kinds of people in Indian families like all the time. But to my luck, to my credit, I was born with an incredibly feminist mother. And having grown up with that, I also realized that I can be that person.
Right.
And no one else's opinion other than whose opinion I want to prioritize matters.
Society has this sort of a bubble around what they will permit and what they won't. What has been your interaction on that front with people around you?
I'll give you a quick example of how before this talk, I just Googled, was like, do I need to do some reading before I make like much more sense about the concept of likability? And I typed likability into Google, and the first whole page and considerably a lot of the second page, how to be more likable for women. Some thought pieces about how women are fail on the likability test. And then that's just a clear indicator that women, other minorities, other people from marginalized sectors in mainstream will always fail likability tests, because from the get-go, we're not likable, because there's just not an idea of what is normal that is fed to you. The idea of normal is a white cis hetero male or a Brahmin cis hetero male in India perhaps, and that is just considered as the norm. And anything that is not the norm is then not likable enough. And from the get-go, you don't have to do anything. I don't really have to be a mean person to you for you to not like me. You can essentially just look at me. Someone from power will come and tell you, can you smile so I can like you? As though their liking of you is indicative of who you are.
Yeah.
And no one will tell a man in power that they need to be likable.
I know while women have to deal with why people are getting intimidated by them, men don't even have to deal with the idea of being likable or not being likable. It's almost as if it's not supposed to occur to them to have this conversation.
I will be like, I have literally had so many people come up to me and tell me that I'm an intimidating person, and that's why they haven't approached me. And I think as a young woman who dates as well, it comes into play as though I'm not being dated enough because people are intimidated by me. and then I have to think, am I doing something wrong? Do I need to be doing something differently? But how many men sit down and analyze that, oh, maybe there's something wrong with them?
Exactly. So when men are discussing bonuses and figuring out the next salary package, women are wondering how they can prep themselves to be more likable, acceptable, fit into people's ideas of them. I mean, like, really, seriously, what are we thinking? And then what happens to you when you are outspoken, have an opinion, you take to social media, then you're not just a woman with an opinion, you are somebody that people will just take 1 second to say that they're willing to rape or molest or abuse or whatever else.
Okay, so anytime I bring up a political opinion, okay, this is a fully important, well-researched, informed opinion that I'm making. And someone will be like, oh, you're so dark and black and, you're fat or something. There'll be some slur. And I'll be like, how is that important? The fact that when men have opinions which might be wrong and people want to attack them for that, it never goes into any slur. I was having this conversation with another female musician. She was talking to me about how she had dropped a new song and they needed to, they were doing promos for it, and they asked her to dance, or they asked people who were promoting it to dance who were also women. And she was just like, but why do we need to dance? I don't think when male musicians come out with a song, you'll ask anyone to dance.
How easy it is for people to just dismiss women just because they're women with views, women with political views, women with views that go against their views.
Thank you very much.
The notion of likability becomes a completely different beast when women are put together with politics. A woman with a political view does make people very uncomfortable, pushing down her likability quotient. And so, when Amnesty International did a study, they noticed that 1 out of 7 tweets sent to women politicians were abusive, 1 in 5 was sexist, and women politicians from marginalized castes received even more abuse and more casteist abuse at that. Muslim women face more ethnic and religious hate speech compared to women from other religions. I spoke to Angelica Aribam and Kiruba Munusami to talk about the intersection of likability and identity politics. Angelica is a political activist and back in the day was the first Northeastern student to be elected to DUSU's executive committee. And Kiruba is an advocate in the Supreme Court and an important anti-caste voice in India.
Women politicians are targeted the world over.
And all women who are vocal on Twitter or social media, any other social media platform, are being abused for their freedom of expression.
They are targeted and abused online, be it from AOC to everyone, right? But it is even more so in India.
The kind of abuse I face is something which is peculiar. For instance, if a woman who is not identified with her caste is facing rape threat, they would say you don't even deserve to be raped because you are a Dalit. And you have a very ugly face, so no one would even have an idea to rape you, or we would not get any orgasm over raping you. That is the kind of comments that I've actually received.
Over the past couple of years, I think I've learned to live with it. And it's rather unfortunate. I'm targeted because of the fact that I am a woman, because of the fact that I am an ethnic minority. And so I am at the intersection, therefore the abuses that come my way are much more layered, and I am from go to Pakistan to go to China, from rise back converts. I am perpetually called a rise back convert because people think that I'm a Christian even though I'm not one.
Millions of times I have reported thousands of posts, thousands of comments, and all the time the response would be, it does not violate the community standards. What would you do? And it is because of the artificial intelligence they have actually programmed, and also the kind of people who are sitting in the policy making and who are sitting and deciding what is abusive and what is not abuse. And it is the people who are actually deciding what is community standards and what is not. And even women do it. In fact, women write about my color, women write about my appearance, women write about my caste. So when I express something, it is coming from the caste background that I come from. It is coming because I eat beef. It is coming because I am born to a particular mother. Even a member of parliament, A. Raja, was abused online by BJP youth wing president. What happened? We all reported. He says you are born from a sinful yoni. That is why you are speaking against caste. That's why you are speaking against NEP. It is in Tamil. It is still in Twitter. We reported. After I reported, I won't even able to see what is happening in the post. Twitter will not allow me to see it.
It's not just an Indian thing, it's across the world, wherein women politicians are, always presented in that paternalistic way, wherein people will see them as extensions of someone. It's not just about women politicians, so to speak, it's about everyone. We want to be more often than not judged, by what they wear, how. I mean, there is this famous saying which says that women, even media's perception of women politicians are more about their attire, for example, in Indian context, right? Handbags or chappals or the saris, rather than talking about what policies they're championing.
I used to tell that in Tamil Nadu, every woman in politics would wear sari. She can't even wear salwar because she needs to be a more likable woman. She needs to, expose herself as a homely woman. And she need to compete with a man who is already accepted by the society, despite of the fact he wears pants. But still, when it comes to a woman politician, she has to make multiple times effort, even 1,000 times efforts than a man to make her presence or to make her competence more likable. That's what happened in the US elections as well, like you mentioned, right? Hillary was accused of not even smiling. So that happens to me as well. Whenever I talk, people say you're talking very emotionally, you're talking out of rage, you're talking in a very rude manner. Yeah, of course, I'm talking with my anger.
It becomes very difficult for women politicians to be seen as strong leaders, right? Because the moment they are strong leaders, so there's this whole perception that the moment you talk about strong leadership, it's masculine in nature, aggressive, assertive, those sort of things. But the moment you see those qualities in a woman, you'll be like, she's not feminine enough. Example, right? For example, it's only very recently that people have started seeing things like compassion, empathy as leadership qualities. And this came after the coronavirus pandemic and, with Jacinda Ardern taking the lead last year during the terrorist attack in New Zealand. So empathy, compassion are something that is very new leadership qualities people are trending to perceive. Earlier, it was just about hyper-masculinity.
It's not easy for a woman to speak in a world where most people have a view on the fact that they speak and then a view on what they say. I spoke to Vidya Balan, to Swara Bhaskar, various women from different walks of life to understand how difficult it's been for them to be themselves, be outspoken women, and just truly go against the grain with an opinion and mind of their own.
I don't think anybody likes to be disliked, and I think that everyone likes to be liked, especially if you're an actor and you're trying to become a bigger star or whatever. It's our business to be liked. But I think that sometimes when you're disliked by a certain kind of people, that actually says something good about you.
I think over time I've become someone for whom my liking me is the thing that matters the most. Because as a kid I was called fat and everything, but I thought the fat came with the connotation of cute. But as I started growing up, people started saying, oh, such a beautiful face, why don't you lose some weight? And then it began to feel like a criticism. So that the same word fat began to mean different things at different points in life. Then there was a point when I lost too much weight. And then I had people tell me, oh, you've lost too much weight. You're looking like really gaunt and lifeless. Your face looks really nice when it's when your cheeks are full up. And I'm like, I can never make everyone happy. Yeah. So the only person who I can have on my side at all times is me. And that can only happen if I accept myself the way I am.
मैं ऐसी हूँ कि मैं पहले से मुंहफट हूँ वो मुंहफट जब पॉलिटिकल में बन गई तो वो और मुंहफट में हो गई बोलती थी मेरी फैमिली की मतलब यू विल गेट जेल मैं कहा जब तक हम लीडर सामने नहीं आएंगे जो स्टूडेंट लीडर्स है हम डर के मारे अंदर बैठे रहेंगे ऐसे तो लीडरशिप फॉर्म होगी ही नहीं आप कितना को जेल में डालो तो एक टाइम के बाद सब लोग ने गिव अप भी कर दिया मुझ पर इट रियली डिप्रेसेस मी इफ आई डोंट स्पीक माय माइंड
I think firstly as a girl, as a woman, you're always wondering whether you're going to get people's approval, acceptance, blah, blah, blah.
Some of the women I've come across, the political women, the professional women, the women in journalism, the women in politics, they really are heroic because if you look at from where they've come and what they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. It is a Herculean task, and I think what they do is become avatars of themselves. The Kali avatar, whether it's a Mamata, whether it's a Mayawati, whether it's a Mehbooba Mufti, whether it's a Vasundhara Raje, you take on this mercurial, angry avatar, because unless you're scary, you will be walked all over.
Look at all those women in the corporate world. For the longest time, they wore their hair short. They wore suits, making them a bit masculine, because you thought authority and power were masculine traits. So you wouldn't be taken seriously if you had a certain softness or femininity.
I think a lot of the men who are saying some of the same things as I am, of course they get flack from certain sections, but they also get a really solid fan following. And I think that a lot of women like me, when we say these things, we're like, yeah, she's nice, but she's too aggressive. In us it seems like aggression, but in men it seems like heroism.
And so, likability is in the eye and politics of the beholder. The next time you find anyone or catch yourself finding another woman unlikable, check that instinct. Find out if that woman is being judged by the same moral compass as we judge men, or her apparent unlikableness is actually linked to our internal misogyny and bigotry. It's time we call that out. One might argue, what's wrong with a likable, kinder world? One where everybody aspires to be nice to each other. But as long as there are going to be two definitions of what likability is, one for men and one for women, it's only going to be used as a tool of forcing women to fit into something that they're not.